Welcome to The Look and Sound of Leadership, an ongoing series of executive coaching tips designed to help you be perceived in the workplace the way you want to be perceived. I'm Tom Henschel, your executive coach, and today we're talking about how to motivate and inspire. John was extolling the excellence of Matthew, one of his direct reports. When our coaching began, John had been endlessly annoyed with Matthew. Chunks of our time were spent with John, frustrated by all the ways Matthew was not meeting expectations. And now, only 4 months later, John was calling him a high performer. When John got to the end of his praise, I observed, "You've both come a long way, John. I'm really glad for you. What do you think made this happen?" Needing no time to consider, John said, "All the times you asked me, have you told him that? After about the 6th time, I got the message. Once I started talking directly to him instead of complaining about him to everyone else, he got better." I smiled, remembering John was right. Whenever he would complete one of his lamentations, I would ask, "Have you told Matthew that?" And most often he hadn't. John went on, "But it's really about him. I could have talked forever, but Matthew was the one who had to make the changes, and he has. It's impressive." "So, John," I said with a slow smile, "have you told him that?" He stopped short. He looked up, searching his memory. "Kinda, sort of, but no, not really. Geez, that's something, isn't it? Maybe I'm never going to learn this lesson." I nodded. "I think you will, John, but I actually think this is a whole different lesson. Giving praise, isn't it all the same as giving development feedback?" "Oh, they can't be that different," he said. "Feedback is feedback." "Maybe," I said, "but you got comfortable doing one, and the other didn't occur to you, so I don't know, maybe they are different." "Huh, maybe," he said. "But why would that be true? It doesn't make sense." "Can I tell you my experience?" I asked. "Well, sure," he said. I said, "I used to teach a presentation skills course that people loved, and here's what I would do. I would videotape them making a presentation to the class, and then right there, in front of everyone, I would play the tape back." "And people loved that?" he asked. "That sounds like torture." I laughed. "I know. People used to walk into the room at the start of the day. They'd see the video camera on the tripod, and they would freak out, and I would say, 'It's going to be okay. I think you're going to like it.' And by the end of the day, people were grateful and happy and inspired to work on their presentation skills." "Well, if you say so," he said, still skeptical. "It's true, John. I think one reason people loved the experience was because I was always conscious from the first time I taught the course that there were going to be 2 kinds of feedback: development feedback, all the ways you could improve, and positive feedback, all the things you should keep doing, and in some cases turn the volume up. And I always began someone's video feedback with at least 3 positive things the person was doing well. It had to be at least 3. And you know what I learned?" "What?" he asked. "People don't know what they're doing well. Not as presenters. Well, a lot of times not as leaders either. I can't tell you how many times clients ask me if what they're doing is good. They're doing what they're doing because that's how they figured out how to do it, but they're not certain it's good. And when they get positive feedback from an outsider, they say, 'Oh, that is good? Great. Thanks for telling me.'" John said, "I remember you doing that with me. You validated something I did. I don't remember what it was, but I remember the feeling of relief when you said you thought I'd made a good choice." I asked, "Was it about that email you sent Nina?" Nina was John's boss. "Yes, exactly. I hadn't been looking for praise. That wasn't why I told you the story. But that thumbs up from you, it made me feel better." "I understand, John," I said. "It is helpful to know what's going well. When someone recognizes something we're doing well, I think some knot inside us relaxes a little. I'm convinced starting my video feedback with those positive observations changed the feeling in the room. People were expecting criticism, in public no less, but what they got was encouragement and support, and they liked it." He nodded, saying, "I've been thinking about who in my life has been good with praise. One teacher jumps out. He was always making us feel good about ourselves. I remember we used to leave his class with so much energy. He was great, Mr. Rosen." "Did people get good grades in his class?" I asked. "I don't know. Probably. I'm not sure I know." Well, it wouldn't surprise me, I said. There has been so much research linking high performance to groups who receive positive feedback. When there is positive feedback, employee engagement goes up, conflict goes down, environments get healthier. A lot of studies show positive feedback improves the workplace. He asked, so is there anything special about giving positive feedback? Anything I need to know? I thought for a second and then said, two things. The first one was something I had to learn. Notice what's going well. I have come to believe that most of us aren't wired to notice what's going well. I went on saying, I remember in those presentation classes, even though I had made myself a commitment to start with positive feedback, I'd be standing behind the camera filming someone's presentation. They'd be down to like the last minute, and I would suddenly flinch and think, oh my gosh, I have not been paying any attention to what's going well. I had to consciously kick myself to notice what was going well, and I don't think I'm all that unusual. The positive feedback channel is just not automatic for most people. So my first suggestion for giving positive feedback, learn to notice what's going well. Remember to look for it. With a little wonder on his face, he asked, I've mentioned my girls to you, right? Right, I said. He had daughters aged 9 and 12. Our 9-year-old is struggling with kids at school. She's unhappy with them, they're unhappy with her, and my wife and I have been trying to help her. But we can tell all she hears is criticism. And we're not trying to make her unhappy, we're trying to show her how she could get different results. But when you tell someone there's a better way to do it than the way they're doing it, criticism's pretty much baked in, right? It is not talking about what's going well. So we made a pact that we were going to start paying attention to what's going well with her and leave the rest alone for now. And are there some things going well with her, I asked. Oh, yeah, of course. She's a good kid, he said. And we're making a concerted effort to tell her that instead of pointing out all the things she should change. Are you noticing a difference, I asked. A little. We just started a couple weeks ago. We'll see. But it's pretty amazing we all had the same thought, huh? Notice what's going well. So I'm all on board with that. What's your second idea? I said, be specific. When you say good job or thanks or that's great, that is not positive feedback. I'm not even sure it qualifies as appreciation. It's completely non-specific. There's nothing to learn from it. There's nothing to be grateful for. So I think it just gets registered as noise. It's not going to motivate or inspire anyone. He listed, be specific, like with development feedback, and remember to notice what's going well. Anything else? Well, there's one other thing, but it might be separate from positive feedback. I'm not sure. But it's something I'm doing more of in my own life, and I like it. What is it? He asked. When I notice something going well, I say it right then. I notice it out loud. I give it importance for a minute, and people seem to appreciate it. My sense is it builds trust. He nodded. Well, you've done it with me. More than just that email. And you're right. I appreciate it. Changing tones, he said, I could certainly do more appreciation out loud at home. I'm not so sure I could do it at work. Why not? I asked. Well, it's kind of rough and tumble around here. I am not sure public praise wouldn't be seen as weakness. Oh, that's interesting, I said. John said, with Matthew, he's put a lot of effort into changing how he works. I think everyone would understand if I gave him some public recognition. But if I start giving praise every time the thought crossed my mind, He stopped, considering, and then he said, I don't know. Maybe it would be great. I'm going to have to think about that. John started giving positive feedback spontaneously. He found it created a virtuous cycle. As he got more comfortable giving positive feedback, it became easier for him to notice what was going well. He wasn't sure he was motivating or inspiring anyone yet, but he was experiencing himself as lighter and more optimistic, which felt like a shift toward the look and sound of leadership. Giving positive feedback is hard. There are so many barriers to giving positive feedback. John and I talked about some of them. Only seeing what's going wrong, forgetting to notice what's going well. Those are parts of a much bigger barrier to giving positive feedback, and it has a name. It is called negative bias. Negative bias is defined as being in our nature as human beings, paying attention to what we don't like more than what we do, is a survival instinct that's innate in us. So it would follow negative bias becomes a barrier to giving positive feedback. So how do we go about rewiring ourselves? In this part of the show, I want to give you 3 ideas that might help you manage your negative bias. And I just want to be clear about why I'm talking about negative bias during an episode called How to Motivate and Inspire. I think there is a direct correlation between your ability to manage your negative bias and your ability to motivate and inspire. When a leader's negative bias goes unchecked, they don't notice what's going well, which means they probably won't give positive feedback, which means they probably won't be motivational or inspirational. So, 3 ways to help you manage your negative bias. The first one, it's a ratio. I'm going to start by asking you a series of questions. So first, as you look back over the past year or so, how much of the feedback that you've received has been developmental and how much has been positive? Now, next question. Whatever that ratio is, how was that for you? Was it motivating and inspiring? Yes? No? Next question. If you answered no, what do you think the ratio would have to be in order for the feedback to feel motivating and inspiring? And now the last question. Whatever ratio you have in your head at the moment, the one that you might experience as motivating and inspiring, are you as a leader delivering in that ratio to the people you lead? I would love to hear your answer. This whole line of questioning is something that actually a lot of researchers have asked a lot of people. And the ratio that keeps showing up for most people over and over is 4-to-1. 4 pieces of positive feedback for every 1 piece of developmental feedback feels fair and balanced to people. I think the ratio illustrates really clearly how strong our negative bias is. That it takes 4 positive touches to balance out 1 negative touch. But what this ratio is really about is awareness. Start tracking the feedback you give. Start tracking the feedback you get. Sort it into 2 buckets, positive and developmental, and keep score. Notice yourself. Be mindful. That's what the ratio is challenging you to do. Be mindful. Aim for 4-to-1. Good luck. Number 2 is a script. This is a script that you can use if you want your positive feedback to feel meaningful. It answers the question, what would positive feedback sound like? Imagine your work as an enormous puzzle that your company has given you to solve, and it has given you teammates to help solve it. When you give positive feedback, you're going to tell the person something they did, and you're going to tell them how that thing they did is helping solve the puzzle. And you'll tell them you're grateful for the help. So it has 3 parts. Recognize what happened, appreciate the difference it makes, and express thanks. That little 3-point script is in the show notes. Please help yourself. If you deliver that as positive feedback, it's not huge. Recognize what happened, appreciate the difference it makes, express thanks. But you're going to do it 4 times for every 1 piece of developmental feedback, right? And if you'd like your developmental feedback to be motivational and inspirational, use the same method. Connect to the puzzle that needs solving. What happened? What difference did it make to the puzzle? And express your hope for better times. The developmental feedback becomes part of the larger puzzle-solving effort. It becomes more balanced. I hope those scripts will help you move towards being comfortable giving positive feedback. The third and final tool is a story about a whole different barrier to giving positive feedback. I will share it right after this month's gratitude. This episode is going live November 2025. The end of the year is looming up, and I have started to take stock of my year, and over I find myself being grateful for all of you. I am grateful for your emails of appreciation. I am grateful for the conversations we have about coaching. I am grateful to hear the stories you tell me of your challenges and your growth and your bravery. I am grateful for all of it. Thank you. And I am particularly grateful for your reviews. You know, the world of podcasting is going through yet another shift. Your steady stream of reviews, I think, helps keep the show visible. And a bunch of you have told me that you found the show through ChatGPT, so I'm certainly grateful to hear that. And I believe that your reviews help make that happen. So thank you this month to, from the UK, Ben Jones Bass. From Australia, Mel78484. And here in the US, A. McGuire, In Oztex, PutterGov, and YY25100. Thank you all for your reviews. Thank you for what you say. Thank you for posting it. I am so grateful. A final negative bias barrier to overcome. A barrier to us giving positive feedback effectively is the resistance some people have to getting positive feedback. It is not all that unusual that people will be uncomfortable when they hear good things about themselves. I see it when I give people their 360-degree feedback reports. The first 3 or 4 pages are all about their strengths and what they're doing well, and it never surprises me when someone just starts flipping past those pages saying, let's get to the good stuff, as if, the strengths aren't good, as if what they're doing well doesn't add value. It can be hard to hear good things about yourself, and I'm guessing you know this feeling. I certainly knew it in my life, and that's the story I want to tell you. I want to tell you what I learned and why I think it's important. There was a time in my life when I began noticing it was hard for me to take a compliment. When I could feel a compliment coming my way, I would feel a part of myself snap shut and refuse to let it in. Luckily, I was working with a really great therapist. I have mentioned her before on the show, Robin Sevitz. We've been working together more than 20 years now. I brought Robin this issue, and being a cognitive behavioral therapist, she gave me homework. The first thing she asked me to do was just notice it. When it happened, notice the part of me that I felt snapping shut. Where was it in my body? What did it feel like? What did I learn about it? And I learned that I could loosen it if I tried. And next, she asked me to listen to what was being said, to be responsible for what I'm hearing as if I had to write it down word for word later. Really listen, stay tuned in. And I did, and it calmed me down. She told me to say thank you, just that. You don't diminish what you hear, you don't deny it, you don't demur. You just say thank you and stop talking. And she taught me to assess what I had heard. Look, after all, this is just somebody's opinion. It happens to be a nice opinion, but what do I think of it? Assess it. Learning that whole process took time. But I remember this day. I felt something that I had never felt before in my life. Someone was paying me a compliment, and I felt myself opening up. Like a gateway was opening toward the sun, and I felt the compliment land inside me like a warm pillow. And it just felt so good. And I remember I just took in a compliment, like I could feel it entering my body. It's not just a metaphor. When you take in a compliment, you really take it in. And I also remember having a little wonder about the fact that there I was, a grown-ass man, and I was taking in a compliment for the first time in my life. And I was grateful. The reason I share this story with you is because I believe there's a positive connection between my capacity to open myself up to positive feedback and my capacity to notice what's going well and give positive feedback to others. When I got better with me, I got better with others. If this sounds like a tasty dish that you would like more of, please first look in the show notes. There's lots of information there, lots of links. There's also additional resources every month in our monthly email, and that information also goes on the Essential Communications homepage in a section called Essential News. So if you want more resources, the links are in the show notes. if you go to the website, hit the tabs tool and browse through our library of free tools, they're all there. You can download them. And in the podcast archive, there are lots of related episodes. This episode is in 3 categories: managing yourself, perception, how you perceive others, relationship building. 5 specific episodes you might listen to are building empathy, creating devoted followers, how to coach your people, how to deepen relationships at work, and how to guarantee psychological safety. Okay, 4-1, everyone, 4-1. Okay, that's it for me. Until next time, I'm Tom Henschel. Thanks so much for listening.